smash the like button and subscribe.
That's laughable. No way he just argued this. You just argued that Donald Trump is more open to immigration as a reason that why he's better for affordable housing? Are you kidding me?
If you look at Trump's immigration policy, he's very particularized. He doesn't want people coming here who are going to strain our, public services. He wants people who can
I just
come
want to know.
here.
You know, mass deportation will deport a lot of people involved in construction that specifically will then lead to increased prices as it relates to construction, correct?
Yes, that may be true, but I think what he's trying to
Within
do
plenty of other industries as well, because they provide productive services to the economy. And Donald Trump wants to deport people who have not committed violent crimes or bad crimes who should not be deported.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree with you with that. I think there's a lot of merit to saying that people, even undocumented, should be able to come here when they work in these industries. But, I think by having an immigration policy that prioritizes very high demand trades, Trump is proposing to expand visa
You
programs.
act like Democrats wouldn't allow all of those people to get into the country. Every single person that Donald Trump's going to allow, do you think would be allowed under a Democratic administration?
Yeah, that's true, but I think
So then tell me specifically what about immigration that Donald Trump's going to do that's going to be better than what Democrats would do?
we can't just have an open door policy that the Democrats are in favor of. I mean,
It's not
it's
open
too-
door.
how
Not
is
even
it not
close.
open door?
What? What do you mean? Obama deported the most people out of any president, right? You understand that, right? Biden deported more people than Trump has so far. It's the process that Trump is deporting people, specifically one that people are protesting, and two that Donald Trump is advocating for even more mass deportation in the long run. So he's trying his damnedest and his hardest to do it, but he can't. He just sucks.
Don't you think that there's some merit to saying that our public services are being overwhelmed by a large influx of undocumented immigrants?
No,
No?
there's no merit to that.
I mean, who pays when an illegal immigrant gets hurt on the job and has to go to the ER? Who pays for
There's
that?
a rock star. So you're saying that's paid through who? I have a question. If that happens to a tourist, who pays for it?
I mean, presume you could purchase travel health insurance, no?
So it would be the person, right? So why is that you not in this circumstance or workman's comp, like what people are saying in the comment section?
I think not every illegal
Thank you for
or
the super love star.
undocumented immigrant that comes to this country has the means to pay for themselves. I mean, it's definitely a strain on our public services. Education's another thing that's extremely expensive that states are footing the bill for. There's a lot of states that allow undocumented immigrants into their public school system, and that's just a big strain. And if they end up going back to their country of
So
origin,
you're saying kids going to school?
yeah, if they end up going back to where they came, how is our investment in their public education going to pay off?
Wait, you understand that that people are going to stay in the country if they immigrate here?
Not necessarily. There's people who come here to make money. They take that money back.
Wait. You know that's what I have a question. Did you know in my high school I had someone specifically who's an international student? Was it wrong for him to benefit off of public schools here in the United States?
No, I mean there's always
Why?
going to be well, that presumes that he intends to stay here long term
He
and
didn't.
intends to have
He
full
went back. He went
employment.
back to Germany.
Yeah, then I don't really see that really benefiting us. I don't think that
So
investment
do
in our
you think
public
that international students shouldn't be allowed?
I think that we should prioritize international students who intend to immigrate to the United States as opposed to people who come here.
Yeah, but
Um,
but should
well,
people be allowed to, spend a few months here, right? A few years, right? Specifically studying here and then go back to their country.
yeah, I think if you're paying tuition, you should be able to. But if you're gonna use public education, taxpayer-funded public education, I don't think that should be incentivized. If you're,
Okay, so you're against the idea that exchange students should exist.
I'm
Like
against
he
the
wants
idea.
he says he wants to get rid of exchange students.
No, I don't think that's a good policy. I would agree with you for that. But I think specifically public education, taxpayer-funded public education, I don't think we should prioritize people who don't have a clear intention to stay long-term in the country. I think it is a strain on our social services. I think that should really be reserved for people who intend
Then
to,
why aren't you against exchange students?
because they're not using public education.
They
If
are.
they're paying tuition, I think that's different.
That they are. Like
They're-
again, I gave an example. Someone went to my high school that was from Germany, that was an exchange student, and they went to a public school. I went to a public school. I didn't go to a private school.
I think that's a bit problematic, honestly. Reasonable minds. But I think there is some problem
What?
with people who don't intend to stay here long term, using our public resources. I think that's a big strain on us.
Why? Why is that a big strain? No, it's a small portion, very small portion of the budget, dude. Jesus Christ!
Public
You know what's a
education
big
is a
strain
small
on our
proportion.
budget? You know what's a big strain on our budget? Donald Trump. He signed off on more debt-related spending, 8.4 trillion overall, 4.8 trillion non-COVID related. If you don't care about that, but you do care about exchange students, I'm gonna cry, bro. That's insane. We're talking about trillions of dollars, right? As in terms of voting for Donald Trump more than you would get as a comparison for getting Harris as president, comparative to exchange students that are not even adding to the deficit, like at all. What are you talking about?
That's a state level thing, public education. The federal government, yes, subsidizes that, but that's mostly on the states. That's not a federal policy.
There's a federal grant, dude.
Yes, yes, you're right, but it's primarily
You want to cut out the federal involvement because you want to abolish the Department of Education. That's just gonna make you just not eat. Do you want your kids to be dumber than you?
I mean, I'm all for public education, but I don't support funding public education for people who do not intend to invest long term in our country. And I think that's a fair point. But going back to your point, I
Jeez, dude.
I don't like that Harris $25,000 first time home buyer policy. I think that's inflationary. It does absolutely nothing to the main problem.
That's actually the purpose of it. Do you want me to explain to you why that's the purpose of it? It's
Sure, go ahead.
inflationary specifically for new houses to incentivize suppliers to build more houses in places where people want to live. But it doesn't actually make it less affordable for people who are buying new houses because it is the case that they get the tax credit.
I see, but I think there's other things that Trump has done that is really more beneficial to address the inventory shortage that we're having right now.
Like,
Well, I mentioned a few of them already. I don't really want to go back and mention it again. I really like another one I hadn't mentioned is utilizing federal lands for residential development.
that's a very small portion of federal lands. I actually don't disagree with this, though.
Okay, fair enough.
Appreciate the struggle. It also depends on what federal lands they're using. Like, are you like cutting into wilderness? Hell no. I want to
No, I
I want to
wouldn't
keep the nature reserves. I don't think we have to cut into wilderness to be able to do that. Zach, thank you for the $20. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank
Yeah, I
you.
agree with that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree
So,
with that.
Zach, I wouldn't be able to clarify all the crimes, but like obviously, it would be crimes that would involve, like very high levels of fraud. All right, that specifically we wouldn't want to let people into the country based upon. Like that would be an example. Maybe ones related to election, right? Like say someone was undermined democratic results, right, or something like that. We wouldn't want to let them in the country. Those are examples of like non-violent sets of circumstances that we would still consider reason to like not let people in the country. So like bad crimes. So those are examples. So again, when I say bad crimes, I mean like they meet a particular threshold that we would say then they should be deported. Because I mean there are certain crimes that are bad that I don't think someone should be deported for, right? Like if someone stole something, right? I mean I would consider it bad, but I wouldn't consider it bad enough to be like for someone to be deported. Yeah. Go ahead. You were
Yeah,
saying, Andrew.
yeah. So Parker, another big thing that I was very critical of is Biden's proposal to implement a nationwide rent control policy. I just think that's a poor idea. I mean,
Hold up. I have one more thing. Someone said, "What are good crimes?" For example, right? There's something illegal right now. We're currently on an app as TikTok that's illegal, right? It's currently banned under the law, just not being enforced by the president of the United States administration, right? That's specifically under the law. It's illegal. Yet I still think it's good specifically to use this app to like benefit people, right? Even though the app is illegal. And throughout history, there are plenty of laws that have existed, right, that we would specifically consider good. There's an example I gave specifically to Jordan Peterson, where it was about like, for example, in the story around the time, right? You have officials knock on your door. You have a Jewish friend that's in your attic. Do you lie to the official in order to save the life of the Jewish individual, even if it's against the law? Yes. Yes, that would be a good crime to commit. It'd be good to lie to them in that scenario because you want to preserve the life of your friend. Does it make sense? That's an example of a good crime. So yes, there are plenty of scenarios where there are certain crimes that we consider actually good to do throughout history that we could point to, at least from from a philosophical sense here. But yeah, go for it. Sorry.
Yeah, one of the policies I was also very critical of is when Biden proposed nationwide rent control. I don't think that's a good idea at all. There's so many problems with that. I don't even know where to start.
Wait, I asked you for like housing affordability policy on behalf of Trump, and now you're referencing rent control policy. So I would be in support of that insofar as that it's specifically based on limiting price gouging, because that doesn't affect the supply curve.
I would disagree with that. I think
What? How?
when you have rent control, it disincentivizes investments.
Not
in
if
the
not
multi-
if not if specifically there's price gouging involved.
I disagree. I mean, anyone who invests in affordable housing has the right to a fair return on that investment, and arguably it's
Well,
unconstitutional.
yeah, no one's disputing a fair return, but what we're arguing is that they're gouging people for things that they need. A fair return is about incentive, would still incentivize them specifically to produce more. We're talking about a point where it doesn't even incentivize them to produce more.
Arguably, this is in violation of the takings clause to, add regulation to people's investments and say that the government is able to limit what people can charge in a fair market. I think it's anti-capitalist.
Right, okay.
It's-
Do you agree with Donald Trump's $35 cap on insulin for people on parts of Medicare?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Oh,
Yeah,
isn't that price control?
it is price controls, but I'm not sure.
Oh, so he's totally okay when Trump does it.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Look at that. You see how quick he switched? Immediately. The question right after he said that immediately switched because Trump did it.
Well, I'm not sure that's in violation of the Constitution and classifies it.
You definitely care about violations of the Constitution. You support Donald Trump. He's literally violated the Constitution multiple times, called for the termination of the Constitution. He's advocating for birthright citizenship policy, right? Changing that, which is grounded in the Constitution without changing like the amendment.
I mean, I think there is some ambiguity in the Constitution about that. I mean, it says nothing about parents who come here illegally, and
Hold up. It says, what does it say about us? Can you tell me the definition of a citizen that it provides?
naturalized born citizens are, duly enabled citizens of the United States. But I mean, it didn't say anything specifically about parents who come here illegally,
It says
or undocumented.
people who are born in the country.
Right?
Okay. That's
But like I said, it doesn't speak directly to those instances where undocumented people come here. I think the way the Constitution was written, it intended.
It does. It says person.
But does it speak directly to parents?
Person
who come
born
here?
in the country.
Right,
The
but it
person
doesn't
born in the
speak
country was the kid. I have a question. If a tourist has a kid in this country, should that kid be a citizen?
If they're here on a valid tourist visa, sure.
So the parent doesn't have to be a citizen in order for them to be able to be a
They're
citizen.
not
So right there,
violating our
he disagreed with birthright citizenship.
Yeah, but in that instance, they're not violating our immigration or visa.
So that's still birthright citizenship.
I don't think people should be incentivized to come here unlawfully, have a child, have that child be a citizen, and then by virtue of that.
By the way, you say come here unlawfully. You know that someone could just come here, stay here within the context of the 90 days, have a kid within the context of the 90 days that they can stay here, and then their kid would be a citizen. So you can lawfully have a child through the context of birthright citizenship as well, very easily, under your view.
I mean, as long as they're here within the visa period, I don't have a problem with that. But as soon as they overstay that visa, I do have a problem.
No, if someone just comes here with a passport, they can stay for like
You're on a
they can
tourist
stay
visa.
for like 90 days, or I think
Yeah.
at least something like that. They can have the kid within 90 days.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But the moment they overstay their visa,
Are you saying you
I'm-
wouldn't let pregnant women into the country?
I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
But if they overstay their visa, then it's time to go back.
Well, they have to, but so then the kid, where does the kid go? Can the kid stay?
I think the kid could stay in that case, but
But by
I mean,
themselves?
no. So I think
We
it.
should level up.
Let me rephrase.
So they
that.
can stay
I
with the kid,
misspoke.
right?
I misspoke. If the child is birthed here during the duration of a valid visa, I think they should be allowed to stay.
Wait, repeat that?
If during the birth of the child there's a valid visa in place, then I think they should be
If
allowed.
they came here with a passport.
Are you and they give birth
Yeah.
while they're here for the 90 days?
Yeah.
Then yeah, I think they should be allowed to stay.
Okay, well, everyone's just going to do that. How
Yeah,
does this change the process?
Because they don't have any intention to infringe on our immigration laws that way.
Okay,
They're here.
so you just want to enforce the law in all circumstances.
Yep. If
Okay.
you want to change the law,
Okay.
then you do it.
If
through
you
the
want to,
Democratic
if you want to enforce the law in all circumstances, what app are you on?
TikTok.
Do you know TikTok's currently banned? It's illegal to use, and that it's just not being enforced by the Trump administration. So you talk a hell of a lot about enforcing all the laws, but you're currently using an app right now that's only able to be used because Donald Trump and his administration are not enforcing the law.
I actually was not aware of that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
So you must get off the app immediately. Get off right now. Get off right now. Seriously.
All right. Take care.
Otherwise,
Good
you're
to see you.
hypocritical. Get off right now.
Have a good one.
Is he actually gonna leave? No way. Yep, stay off TikTok. Don't spread this. Exiled. You're gone. Come on, are you actually leaving? No way. Come on, dude. That's nuts. And don't come back. And don't come back. And don't you come back.